Hey friends, welcome to your Daily Detroit. Today we're diving into a world of capes and incredible local talent. The Detroit Historical Society has just opened a brand new year-long exhibit called Heroes vs. Villains, the Art of the Comic Book, and it is packed with surprising connections to our home. Did you know Detroiters had a hand in everything from The Simpsons and Futurama to the Batmobile and legendary DC and Marvel storylines? We sat down with the curators.
Billy Wal-Winkel, and I'm the field curator for the Detroit Historical Society.
I'm Brendan Roney, the manager of digital projects.
And
I'm Kevin Hawthorn. I help work at the museum.
Right in the middle of the exhibit in Detroit's Midtown to get the inside scoop. I really enjoyed this conversation. But first, I want to share something with you specifically if you use Spotify to listen to the podcast. I was having coffee with a listener the other day, and they were suggesting topics that we had already covered. And we realized that he thought we did the show once a week or once every 2 weeks. That is definitely not the case. And it turns out Spotify as a podcast app will not always recommend new episodes to you unless you hit the notification bell. So I feel like a YouTuber right now, but if you're on Spotify, both follow us and hit the bell so you do not miss episodes. You get notified, you know if you want to listen to them or not. All right, to the Detroit Historical Museum. So I guess I'll start with you, Billy. How did this start to come about?
So this started about 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago, where I just threw out, I'm like, hey, can I do a comic book exhibition? And there was a little bit of laughter from my then boss and my current boss and a few other people like, what is there to show? Like, what is there to share? And I was like, so much, I promise. And we got the tentative green light, Brendan and I and our coworker Michael, to start working on this in 2019. Then the pandemic hit us. And then we had just a couple of delays getting ourselves back together, piecing ourselves, because the arts were hit very hard during the pandemic. And so now we got our opportunity to share this very, very rich and colorful story.
And there are a couple people who also are part of putting this thing together. Brendan, what are you most proud about in this exhibit?
Ooh, wow. I think the story, I consider myself kind of a big nerd, and there was so many times when we were putting this together where Billy was like, hey, did you know this guy's from Detroit? And I'm like, no, he's not. And lo and behold, he is. So, yeah, I didn't expect to learn as much as I did going in. So, yeah, just information, and the presentation's amazing. Everything looks great. It's a visual medium, and, I think we brought that.
Well, and Kevin, what are you most excited about?
I know I'm cop out to say everything, but everything in here is really incredible. But if I have to give one special shout out, it's got to be to the Simpsons Futurama Bongo comics, just because I've been a lifelong Simpsons fan. And I didn't realize how much of the city of Detroit is so many people from background animators to just anyone else just worked on that show to make those shows what they were. And that's a really cool thing to be part of, one of the longest running TV shows of all time.
Okay, give me some kind of random fact about it, because I didn't know about this myself.
All right, so Bongo Comics, the Bill Morrison, who was there, Simpsons Comics, he's from Detroit, and he went to CCS, I believe. And CCS is learning that CCS is pretty much one of the top art schools, and I feel like people don't talk about that as much. And he was working with The Simpsons to make all the Simpsons comic books that ran through the 90s. And Billy also is a big Futurama fan, so he can talk about some of the Futurama stuff.
Yeah, so Bill Morrison was one of the 4 founders of Bongo Comics, along with Matt Groening and Stephen Sidney Vance. He was there from the get-go at the bottom floor. He was one inking the final comics to get them out, the first issues. He was the creative director and editor-in-chief until 2012, when Nathan Kane took over, who was another kid from Allen Park. And he was editor-in-chief and creative director until 2019, when Bongo's closed. But Chris Unger, Cassandra Heller, Chris Houghton, Mike Kazala, all these other Terry Austin, all these folks contributed to Bongo Comics over the years. And Bongo was in charge of not only Simpsons, but also Futurama. And I'm a huge Futurama fan, my favorite show, next to Parks and Rec. And to know that a Detroiter was the art director of Futurama for the first 4 seasons and helped create some of my favorite characters like Fry and Bender and Zap Brannigan is just lovely.
One of the things looking around that I was surprised by is how much stuff is actually set like in some way in Detroit or partially in Detroit. Really cool stuff. Like I noticed next to me, there's this hero world. Looks so cool with like the Penobscot in the background. Like this is so many cool little things. Or Justice League, the Detroit era. Anyone want to talk about that a little bit and kind of diving into those local bits?
Yeah, when people think of comics, they tend to think of New York City. They tend to think of the East Coast. They think of Wakanda or some far off place. But so many creators wanted to demonstrate Detroit's worth. They wanted to bring their hometown with them. Jeff Johns, the prolific writer and creator of comic books, TV shows, and movies, joked with us that he almost got yelled at once because he put too much of Detroit in all of his books. For his Flash run, he transformed Central City into Detroit. They were motorheads. They were gearheads. They focused on doing the same things that Detroiters were doing to have fun. In his comics, he wanted to demonstrate that Detroit was a place you can be proud of being from, that it had value, and so many other creators do the same thing. They want to rep their city. They want to bring their Detroit values, their Detroit grit to characters in the comics.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. The old adage, Marvel is, it's the world outside your window. It's, New York instead of, Metropolis or something like that. And it took a couple years for the creators from Detroit to kind of get in there and, really make that true and have this featured. Some of the early attempts are kind of funny. The Justice League 80s issues where they're set in Detroit, there's a lot of like, Aquaman got here from Lake Michigan and stuff like that doesn't quite check out. But eventually they worked it out and they saved the Ren Sen in an issue from the mid 80s and stuff like that.
Turns out maybe the Ren Sen's going to need Marvel characters today, right?
Yeah, got to bring Firestorm back to save that. Yeah.
And even things like I grew up watching the Static Shock cartoon, which is set in Dakota City, but the writer was from Detroit, and you can clearly tell Dakota City is Detroit in everything but the name. Oh. And like rewatching that, like, because I got re-inspired by doing this. I'm like, I haven't watched that show since I was a kid, and seeing how much of Detroit comes through in those like issues, even if they're not named Detroit, you can feel the influence, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Dwayne McDuffie, yep.
Yep. So when somebody comes down here, I'm going to go through each of you. What is the one thing you want to make sure that they see when they come down here?
I want them to go over and just ogle the Batmobile we have on the wall. Ed Natividad is a concept designer. He's best known for creating the Batmobile for Batman v Superman in 2016. But he got his start working on Batmobiles in 1990 as a student at the College for Creative Studies, then the Center for Creative Studies, because he went and saw Tim Burton's Batman. He changed his focus, and for his junior thesis, he created this half-size Batmobile. He had it still, and we have it on our wall. Just come see, because one thing we talk about in here is how the different generations inspired one another, but also how just Detroiters helped each other. When Rich Buckler got into Marvel, he helped Keith Pollard and Alvaro Jones get in. When Tom Warzikowski got there, when Al Milgrom got there, they brought talent with them from Detroit. They helped people lift up. When Bill Morrison got set up on the West Coast, Chris Unger and Nathan Kane stayed at his house and slept on his couch while they got set up. During fanzines, Mike Vosberg came home to Jim Starlin sitting on his front porch saying, "Hey, are you the guy that does fanzines?" I want people to see that connectivity, and I want people just to know that, like, if you're interested in this, there are people you can talk to. You go reach out to the community; they'll help you up, they'll lift you up.
This sounds a little self-serving, but I swear it's not. But I want to make sure people don't pass up the interactives. We have some really great ones. There's one where you actually get to read some comics. A lot of folks are maybe used to engaging with these characters through like movies and TV and stuff like that. And there's a whole wide world in the page, and to hopefully we can hook some people into reading comics and shopping at their local comic book shop if they start paging through the touchscreen that has that. Secondly, it's an artistic medium. We have another interactive that has some process videos and some how-tos and things like that, and I hope kids and people of all ages, kids of all ages, can check those out and maybe get bit with the bug to try some inking or learn to fold a mini comic or something like that, and get involved in the scene, get their stories here, and when we rerun this exhibit in 100 years with our heads in glass jars Futurama style, then I hope they'll be included. So
I mean, come on. I want my head in a glass jar. This would be amazing.
Yeah.
I could still podcast.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't even need arms for
See the
this.
fish food come on in?
Yeah.
It's a simple life.
They still have all three Beastie Boys.
As long
so.
as they're put next to cool people.
Exactly.
Don't want to be put next to Richard Nixon.
No.
Mine would be the Simpsons couch gag that we have, because I remember when these were first brought in, like last month, and they were in a state of disrepair. Like, I think Bart was missing like huge parts of his face, and our team, I just want to give a shout out to our team who works here. They did an amazing job. They look like they're brand new off the assembly line. So definitely come see the Simpsons couch gag and learn a little bit about Bongo Comics, because there's a lot of cool stuff there.
And so listeners know that Homer is like as big as me. Like when I'm talking about like these they're not figurines, they're figures,
Yeah.
right?
They're statues almost, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So let's do the brass tacks for people who are going to come by. What do they need to know? When does this run and all that stuff?
So it opens today, Free Comic Book Day. You can come until 5 p.m., but this exhibit will be here for a year. You can come and check out this exhibit while checking out everything else the Detroit Historical Museum has to offer. And after you do that, you can go get some great lunch here in Midtown.
Well, Billy, Brendan, and Kevin, thank you so much for your time on Daily Detroit. I really appreciate all three of you.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Feedback as always, dailydetroit@gmail.com or 313-789-3211. Devin O'Reilly is going to join me on our Off the Record, Off the Rails private Patreon-only podcast this weekend. I cannot wait to share it with you. You can find it at patreon.com/dailydetroit, as well as many more. I'm Jer Stays, and maybe I'll see you over the weekend, or if not, I'll see you on Monday. Either way, I'll see you around Detroit.